Hello, this is Sam Simon, also known as Dementia Man. And by the way, I've started putting Dementia Man on my name on my uh, underneath my picture here. I am so privileged, and I want everybody, I hope, to get ready for a very engaging conversation. But we're privileged to have Chris Palmer um, in this um, podcast. And Chris, um, I don't know. He says an end of life um, activist or end of life person. He had been a filmmaker and wildlife, so we're going to agree on a lot of things in that way. But I've run into Chris. His book, as you'll see, is Achieving a Good Death. And I think we agree on some things. I think we also have some difference in viewing some other pieces. So we're going to have a great conversation and exploring where we can agree, but where there are some different points of view. And then hopefully you'll find it engaging. And I was just talking to Chris before we started. Maybe we'll have to do it again, but we'll see. Um, at any rate, welcome, Chris Palmer. Introduce yourself, Chris,
I,
and
I
um,
will.
let's start
Thank
from
you.
there.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much. And it's an honor and a privilege to be with you today and to have this conversation. We do disagree on some things. We have different perspectives, and which I think is healthy and good. And we'll bring those out. I mean, just to put it so that the audience knows, I believe in giving people choices at the end of life. And if they want to hasten their deaths under certain circumstances where they're suffering incredibly, I believe they should be allowed to. I know you do not believe in that. You disagree with medical aid in dying, and I support it. You disagree with Amy Bloom and what her husband Brian did, went to Switzerland to take advantage of their medical aid in dying program, and you disagree with that. But we also agree on a lot of things, and this is going to be a very interesting conversation. But you asked me to introduce myself, so I'm Chris Palmer. This is my latest book, is my 10th book. It's called Achieving a Good Death, a practical guide to the end of life. It has I think about 130, 40 five-star reviews on Amazon. It's been widely discussed, and I'm so happy to be here, Sam, with you to discuss it. The book covers what to do before you die, things like advanced directives, dementia riders, living well, ethical wills, things like it covers death itself, VSED, palliative sedation, medical aid in dying, and so on and so on. And it covers obviously after death, body disposition, uh, eulogies, obituaries, things like that. So it's a comprehensive book. I think people are finding it very useful, and I'm delighted to be here today to talk about it.
Well, that's good. I was going to maybe start with literally. I had it a second ago, but let's start with something we agree on, and then we can get into the uh, perspectives. That there ought to be and needs to be a dignity in that moment, and I'm all. I have no objection, ethical. Not that I'm in control of anybody or anything. Let's be clear about that. But the choice to stop care. I I think anybody should have the right to terminate any further treatment or care. And let's go into the will or the medical directive and how important it is on how you do medical directives. Um, and that goes to just this question of what are your choices? So if you make a choice and you put it in a medical directive and you be very specific about it, that may be done years and years before circumstances appear.
Right.
In your view and your family's view at that moment, at 10 years later, may change.
Yeah.
So I just recently, I mean, the last couple of years, ran into some folks who are recommending that rather than having a very specific withhold treatment or don't treat, or that it's that you have a group of people to look at my circumstance at that time,
Yeah.
make the decision. Because there was a New York Times uh, op-ed where a couple of brothers, they had disagreed on their father's uh, directive, which he had said when the father, who had been a physician, his two sons are physicians. I think they may have been twins, but at any rate, and he had said, if I get Alzheimer's or like dementia, don't treat me. Then years later, he is in a memory unit. He gets pneumonia, easily treatable, and he is in a circumstance that he's happy. Both sons had acknowledged that. He even found a girlfriend, apparently, and in the memory unit, he has pneumonia. Treat or not treat. And it was a dilemma, and they talked about it. They had two things happen. One is that they did not treat him to honor what was written, and recommending to others that rather than being that specific, to have a committee make decisions when the time comes so that they're more current as to the circumstances and the conditions. I
Yeah.
would
So,
not, but
so,
there you go.
Sam, let me talk about that because you're making some very good points. First of all, it is important for people to complete an advance directive. I just want your listeners to know that if anybody listening to this has not completed an advance directive, what you call a medical directive, advance directive, then you should do that. About only about 40% of people have done it, which is terrible. And
Yes.
in people of color, it's about 20%. It's even worse. So it's important. Now, not only should we do an advance directive, which for anybody who doesn't know that, what that refers to is a document where you lay out how you want to be treated as you get when you're sick and in hospital. And of course, when you can talk, um, uh, and you have the mental capacity to talk, you can say it. So you don't need an advance directive. So an advance directive is only needed when you want other people to know and you can't say it yourself because you might be comatose or whatever. So
Or you might be cognitively enabled to be.
exactly. So having an advanced directive is important, but I want to add to this two things. One, very important to add a dementia rider. About 10 million people now suffer from dementia, and Sam, you are one of them. You have early dementia. No one would know it from listening to you and talking with you. You're amazing. You're a performer. You write plays, you write books, you perform in front of audiences. You're just an amazing person. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that 10 million people suffer from dementia. Some of them have early dementia like you have, and some of them have moderate or advanced dementia. And of course, we need to say, for those who may not realize, that having advanced dementia can be a terrible situation. You don't recognize people, you don't recognize yourself. You can get lost. You can have been a person who was gentle and decent and generous, and yet with advanced dementia, some people become combative and agitated and hostile and aggressive. And so is for most people a terrible time. And a lot of people look at advanced dementia and say, don't let me ever suffer through that. And they put it in their advanced dementia, give me a way out. And we'll come down to that, but I want to finish the point you raised about talking to people. Because so you want an advance directive, you want a dementia rider, which says how you want to be treated if you have dementia at different stages of dementia. And this is now I'm coming back to your point, Sam. You want to talk to your loved ones and your doctors so they know how you feel. Because as you point out, you can change your mind. As you can write an advanced directive, but some years later, you change your mind, but you may not have written it down. So by talking to your loved ones, by talking to your medical providers, they know your values, they know how you feel, so they can then make the best judgment possible when you are have advanced dementia or comatose. They know even perhaps even better than your advanced directive how you want to be treated.
Good. And you know that you've given me a new entryway into the harder part of the conversation because I'm uncomfortable with a lot of the words you use describing people with dementia. And in the play, there is a line that, or a variation of the line is I'm going away, I'm transforming, I'm becoming someone else. This Sam is going to go away and someone else will occupy this body, not something else.
Right, right.
Someone else. That will be a human being. That, and it won't be the old Sam. And we're going to footnote that because that goes to how hard it is for the caregiver. But I will become, I mean, assuming, it depends on, but at some point it's possible that I will become someone else and I'll be different. I might be more aggressive. I might scream and yell, which
Well, you might not.
I might not, but I've done it a little bit. My wife has already insisted we talk to a social worker about my moments. The fact that she brought my awareness to it only means I need to make sure she knows what to do. I can't control it. So you don't want to put anybody at risk. And they are human beings. We will always be human beings. And I'm not sure our view of somebody and we think they're suffering, it's our opinion, means that they are. And they are different human beings and they behave differently. Some are more passive. So again, in the play, it's we may need to choose to, if I become too aggressive, we may need to find a place for me to be. Said, not only if I become too aggressive, but maybe I'll become too docile,
Yeah.
If I get too agitated and too hard to, for Susan, my wife, my cognitive navigator and care partner, love partner, can't handle me, then we may need, but it might be, it could be a memory unit or it could be there are homes, group homes that might work, depends on things. There are even increasingly adult daycare that do much more work,
Yeah.
much more work than they've done. They're transforming themselves. But it isn't just too aggressive, but I could be just too docile, too
Yeah.
just staring into the sky,
Right.
and she can't let me, and she can't.
That's
So,
right.
so you need to think though, but I'm still human, and it is so. So I would encourage us to use better language about people.
Well, except you're making a very good point. But I just also want to recognize the validity of those people who look ahead when they have mild dementia and say, when I get to advanced dementia, I want to hasten my death. Yeah, it's okay for Sam to not to disagree but now, for example, suppose I get dementia. I don't have it, but suppose I do. I could easily. Many of us will get it, and I will want to. Now, this I know you disagree with this, Sam, but I will want to hasten my death. And how can I do that? I can stop certain treatments. I can use voluntary stopping eating and drinking, or VSED. I can go to Switzerland, like Amy Bloom's husband did, or I can take advantage of medical aid in dying if I live in a state where that is legal. And where you and I fundamentally disagree is that I believe in people giving people choices at the end of life. And if somebody wants to hasten their death because they can't stand the unbearable suffering that they are going to go through, then I believe they have the right to do this. Now you don't. You believe they
Oh,
don't have.
but like, can we stop? You're assuming that everybody will have this terrible suffering moment, and I don't. One, two, we don't. It was my point earlier. it may appear to you and me as we stare at somebody, as we see somebody, that they're suffering and they're terrible. And we still don't know. No one does what's going on behind that face.
That's a good
And
point.
they may not be suffering, one.
That's a good
Two,
point.
and there is a substantial risk in many circumstances. So what is informed consent? And how do you, it's a dilemma in this moment, and there's a lot of written about that, that if you are unable to know how you are and going to be in a moment, how can you be informed about that moment? And you can imagine what it might be like. And is that informed consent? If there are people, if you are in a semi-advanced or close to advanced state, and there are people around you with a stake in your death, and they keep promoting it, or they encourage you to make a decision to leave for their interests,
Good point.
and
Good
do
point.
you want to have a debate in front of somebody? Here is somebody on the one side that says, "Well, let me tell you why you should die and have aid or stop eating." The other one says, "Let me tell you why not," and expect the person to make an informed decision. And again, the idea that I could have made that informed decision 15 years ago, or 10, or even 5 years ago without ever doing it. And then there's another part of that, which is separate from this argument, because I also believe that every death can be done with dignity, and that there's a gift in it. There's a gift in it to um, the general society. There's a gift into it as the potential adding to the, again, the line in the play, but it's how I believe. If my death, natural death, because of how I go through it, advanced science, to make this the ultimate cure for this disease, whatever disease, advanced even by a nanosecond, then that's a gift I have to give. And this this rush to, in other words, cut the cost of caring for people, and even now how we create a society that makes it so expensive to live that there is an incentive just on financial basis. Because I do believe that every life and every minute of life is sacred.
Yeah.
This is a value statement. I get
Yeah.
that. People
Yeah.
may disagree with that.
Yeah.
And I'm unprepared to assume otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sam, I'm appreciate what you say so much. People have value. Um, uh, Lives are precious. People change their minds. It's impossible to say how. It's impossible, and you make another very good point. It's impossible for a person looking at somebody with advanced dementia to say if they're suffering or not. They may look like they're suffering, but they themselves may not feel they are suffering. You're making excellent points. So what I want to say is that I want to recognize the value of what you're saying. But I also want to say that, for example, I'm very active in the Final Exit Network. And for those viewers who want to learn more, it's finalexitnetwork.org is our website. And I serve on the board, and I'm very proud to do so. This is an organization which I know you will not favor, but this is an organization, many people do favor it. This is an organization that helps people hasten their deaths, and it will work with people with still have capacity but have dementia, have mild dementia. So it's a wonderful organization. They also have an incredible blog called the Good Death Society blog, and people can find that at the Good Death Society blog.net. They have a blog once a week, which is very, very helpful to people. Often talks about dementia. So I think what we have here, Sam, is we have a variety of sort of a wide spectrum of views. We have your view, which I understand completely, which is that life is precious. No one should tell somebody else to when to die, and it's not our position anyway to say when we should die, and we should do everything we can to help people up until they do die, and so on. And my position is we should help a lot of we should help people all we can as they die, but for those people who are suffering unbearably, they should have the right to. This is just my position, not your position. They should have the right to hasten their death through palliative sedation, through medical aid in dying, through FEN, the Final Exit Network.org, and the Exit Guide program, or through stopping treatment and whatever. So I think this is a very healthy discussion, and I am so honored to be in this discussion with you. I think you are just an amazing person, Sam, to be leading, to be one of the leaders in this discussion. And I'm honored to be with you today. We do sort of disagree on some things on this issue of whether people have the right to hasten their death or not as they get close to death. So.
Yeah, there is a patient's right. I was trying to look real quick, and um, I'm sure I'll find it and put it in a note. The Patients' Rights Network. So there's an organization, a nonprofit that is very involved in trying to limit the laws that enable assisted suicide. And
what's the organization called again?
I think it's Patients' Rights Network.
And it's lobbying against
Right, not a lobby, it's suing to make these laws unconstitutional. They're challenging there's one in New York, that they're challenging. They're also, one of their current things is that they believe it's being promoted assisted early dying for people with disabilities. But by the way, there was a lot of people early on. So compared to earlier in history, well, first of all, let's start with the word. Dementia is a demeaning word, and if people are inculcated that they are less than human because they're demented, mad, crazy, or insane, that alone helps shape views and willingness to accept something that is inaccurate. Because
good point,
people are not crazy, insane. You're sick. I have a poem. There's poetry on the website, Dementia Man, and I wrote it early on. I had this little bit of curiosity of what the Sam of me then in the future will know of the Sam of me now.
Right.
But I will still be Sam. Now, in body, embodiment, and from birth, and my history, preserving history, and total aside, and taking care of personal effects and making sure whenever anybody dies, you need to, I am, so they're suing to stop these. Their position is that there can never be informed consent, that the circumstances in that part are not known. We cannot understand what's going on in that head as that approaches. There's no ability to change one's mind, particularly the closer you get to that point, where particularly if some medical assistance. Now, I wouldn't agree. I've been in the circumstance where it was my mother, where the decision was to not continue to treat. And I was with her in that last moment. And and as a result of that, I had decided that that decision was wrong. That she should have been treated. It wasn't her choice. These were before advanced directives. It was the family, because she was quite sick, and she had a cancer that had moved her brain, and she was sort of just somebody laying there. Yet, having experienced that, the urge in me to want to help, resuscitate, do something with, I've never felt that in any other moment in my life. And it made me not even do an advanced directive for some time. Now I've changed it. I have it, but I don't. I don't. Well, and I've been with somebody where treatment was suspended, so I've seen both sides. But I think that we can never know what it's going to be like. I think the suffering is in the modern era. No one has to physically suffer. That there are enough, whether it's drugs or drugs or other treatments that can alleviate any level of pain.
Yeah.
And so, is that suffering? If you and that there are benefits and grace to going through the process for yourself and for your family.
And there are occasional times when the fog of dementia lifts for a second. There's a lucid moment, and it's very, very special. I know. So Sam, for your listeners, for your the people watching this program, I want to recommend a book which I've just finished reading by Lou Cohen. It's called Winter's End. Winter's End. It's about a guy who is suffering from dementia and decides to hasten his death through voluntarily stopping eating and drinking. So people who want to learn more about that, that's a book I recommend. I also want to recommend on the Compassion and Choices website, there's a tool for creating a dementia rider, which your listeners will find very helpful. So people should go to Compassion and Choices websites. It's cnc.org, and they can look up the values, dementia values and tool. No, dementia
And
tools
that,
values.
and one of those choices could be to take every extraordinary
Every extraordinary
choice
step
if you want to.
you can say, I want, if I need to have a hip replacement the day before I die, please do it anyway. That's right. You can say you want, but for most people are going to say, when I get advanced dementia, if I get an infection, if I get pneumonia, then let that be an easy exit for me. Treat any pain or discomfort and agitation, but this book I've written, Achieving a Good Death,
Yeah.
explains very clearly that a good death is the death that the patient, that the person wants. It isn't what you think, what I think, what the doctor thinks, what the family thinks. It's what the person wants. And this is on, this is where you and I,
Yes,
this is where you and I agree that
but
a
I would
good,
where we're going to maybe separate, and it has to be an informed choice with perfect clarity and understanding. And that is where the challenge comes.
yeah,
There is a point in the journey where that we don't know. And I'm going to err, if that's an error, and I don't think it is, on the side of choosing life. Of
yeah,
course, that's a Jewish value.
yeah, yeah.
And
Good
but
one, a good one.
but it is these are the most challenging times in
Yeah,
people's lives.
yeah.
And so I encourage whoever's listening to check in with. So I told you this, but what do you do when you get the diagnosis? Well, we left our doctor's office and we came home and we let our children know, and then I went to the clergy and I let them know. You know, it's so hard. I don't think that anything goes though, and I don't think. I'm going to tell a quick story because it seems relevant. Um, one of my children had to go through an early uh, end of a pregnancy, and it was very trying. It was very difficult. Some might call it an abortion, but they wanted the remains to be buried. The rabbi wouldn't show up for it because it wasn't considered a life within the Jewish religion.
Yeah.
So religion has its own issues.
Right.
uh, but these are really, really challenging. So I would agree with you to learn as much as possible.
Yeah.
There is this Patients' Rights Coalition, and that you do have rights. Bringing, I worry a lot about undue pressure.
Mhm.
that there are risks that those are interested parties that are interested in your death. Um, and
Yeah, have to be. I agree. You have to be very careful. But don't forget, Sam, since 1997, when medically dying was became lawful in Oregon, that's over 25 years ago now. There's been no examples. There's been no one has found anything. Nothing's gone wrong with that. There's been no coercion, no abuse. It's
that we know of. Okay, I that's way too broad to say.
okay. Okay.
Nobody may have been prosecuted,
Yeah.
which may
Okay.
itself be a problem. And in
Yeah.
fact, if statistically there is some level of pressure or something, whether or not it was seen or prosecuted, doesn't mean it wasn't there.
No,
And
okay,
I
that's
want
a
to be
fair
really
point, but
clear.
you've got a good point, but I just want to make the point though that for lots of people, medically and dying has been a godsend, has really helped them, and this is beyond dementia now. This is
There's a
cancer, heart
wide
disease.
variety of, well, but there's I have that other story. My wife Susan, the diagnosis with advanced breast cancer. The other play is called, and the book. I have my book, The Actual Dance Love's Ultimate Journey Through Breast Cancer. Well, the doctors pulled me aside and said it was hopeless, and that she was going to die. Now she's here, she's healthy. They found out that what they thought was wrong wasn't cancer, it was something else. It was not a tumor, it was a cyst. But I know even Susan would have lived for as long and done what it took because we have and this is me, we have potential gifts even in our dying.
Mhm.
That it isn't just about me. We can do something that might advance science and help others,
That's true.
including our loved ones.
That's true. Good
It's
point.
complicated. There may be some people who watch us go through the end of life and are distressed, but their distress isn't my responsibility. That there are others who will be traumatized by their early death. I don't know. I mean, it's complicated. And I have too have been in a position where I've been the one with the decision making on somebody who
Mm.
the doctor said there's no hope. I'm not even a fan of stopping eating and withholding treatment. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not as
Mm.
I don't want to outlaw that. And but the medical folks, but I actually had not quite true. There was another doctor or a friend of the family's who said, "Well, I've seen people get over this," and um, you don't know, but
Mm.
so it's hard,
Yes,
and
yeah.
in the process too. I want to make sure, but if people do decide, what I did is I brought in what I call stakeholders in this person's death to be in front of him. He was not apparently conscious as we talked about it, and because again, we don't know what people can hear or sense. In my belief,
Yeah. Yeah.
those moments, so that the decision is made with and aware. It is both sides. I we never had to think about it, I guess, until all of a sudden you get the diagnosis. I do urge people to consult with their own faith side of things. And I just wanted to come back because the one thing in our conversation bothers me a little bit is I don't think it's terrible. I don't think we are projecting our view of what it looks like on how we feel on some process. I I'm and I do want to talk about and if somebody chooses to stop eating, chooses to end their life, I'm not going to outlaw that. I worry about them being fully informed, but I'm not looking for that. I am looking for I would not support um, giving advanced or medical accompanied suicide, where you go into a room and drink a cup of poison or give an
Yeah.
injection.
So Sam, I know we don't have much time left, and we come to the end of this podcast. So I just want to quickly say thank you for making all those points, which is very important for your listeners to hear. I want to make 2 points. One is that to use the word suicide is not, in my opinion, fair, because suicide we associate with trauma and the ending of a young life, of a healthy life. But at the end of life, when the people are just facing life for only, they've only got a few weeks left, or a month or two left of unbearable suffering, to then hasten your death, to call that assisted suicide as you did, I think is not fair. It doesn't describe accurately what's going on. The other thing I want to say is that for your listeners, I do encourage them to go to the FEN website, finalexitnetwork.org, and look up the Exit Guide program, but also look up the guides we have there for people with dementia. We have advanced directives for dementia patients, and they're very good, and a lot of thought has been put into them. So I encourage your viewers to go to the finalexitnetwork.org website and take a look at those advanced directives, which have been designed specially for people with dementia.
My one point going to be, and I do want to go to this. So if somebody wants to end their life by what's called accompanied suicide now, or drinking a cup of poison, that's Switzerland. There are places in Switzerland. I don't know that that's legal in the U.S. So
Well,
it
it's
is.
legal in 12 states. If you qualify for medical aid and dying in 12 jurisdictions, including DC.
So let me be clear. So it'd be interesting because I don't know this. The act of drinking a cup of poison or being injected
You can't be
require.
injected. You can't be injected in this country. In
Okay.
America, it has to be through the through the digestive system, through your
Oh,
mouth,
okay.
through
All right.
your a G tube, in your stomach, or rectally.
Okay. And you do have to give informed consent,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and you have to be cognitively competent.
You have to have mental
That,
capacity. You have to be over 18. Right, right, right.
yeah. And then somebody will have to certify that, and you'll be in the room alone with them because they can't have somebody with you to make it so that the one who's certifying you as competent will try to understand and believe that you have enough capacity to make an independent decision. And to be at that state, in my view, is going to be sufficiently more than months ahead of when you more likely will die or not. And I think that there is a high risk that this isn't just 6 weeks before
You're talking about someone with dementia.
I'm talking about even somebody with dementia. If I have to be that, I'm talking about anybody. And that
Well,
includes,
if you have dementia, then it's you only have dementia, you only have mental capacity in the first couple of stages of the 7 stages of dementia. So it's going to be years before you die. Wait,
so, so yes. And I don't want to give the name of the book. People probably find it because I don't want Amy Bloom's book to sell any more than it has. But it's a good example. She quotes her husband as saying, I don't want to die, but I don't want to continue to become a lesser and lesser person.
well, what he says in
So,
that,
so,
what
so
Amy Bloom in that book, it's called In Love. It's called. It's an excellent book.
I
What,
think it's terrible, but go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. That's just we
Don't
we
buy it.
we
Sorry.
agree on lots of things, but this is one place where we disagree. I think it's an outstanding book by Amy Bloom, In Love, about her husband Brian, who goes to Switzerland to hasten his death and to avoid what he views as the unbearable suffering he would otherwise suffer
But,
if
but,
he.
but let me stop you on that, but because this is my point. When I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I was told by my neurologist, and my diagnosis and Brian's were identical. Early stage Alzheimer's. And I'm sure Brian was told the same things. It could be 5 to 10 years before things get a lot worse.
Yeah.
And yet, before the 5 years, in his case, he went and got certified as as being mentally competent, gave consent, and they got up and they went to Switzerland.
Yeah. So
And he took at least 5 to 10 years
well,
off of his life.
he gave up. You're quite right. He gave up
And
some good life in order to avoid terrible suffering.
we don't know. You're
No, but this is
presuming that
no
there is no way to know
right.
what those end years are like and whether they're suffering.
But
But let me give you a point.
Brian, just as you are. Brian had his opinions.
Well, so you just made my point. It is opinions based on
Yeah.
circumstances and life. And now
Yeah.
I'm and the influences around Brian, we're encouraging him, supporting him.
Well, I think Amy Bloom, his wife, wanted him to get the death that he wanted, um, and and that's
He
what
didn't
you
know
that,
it. He was 5 to 10 years from then, and he didn't know it. But what he said, and what she quotes him as saying, so taking that at face value, I don't want to keep becoming a lesser and lesser person. I am not becoming a lesser person.
no,
I
you're
have the
not.
same exact diagnosis he had.
Yeah,
And
but
I'm
Brian,
now into my 7th year, and I am not a lesser person.
you are not
And
unless
yet he thought he was going to be, and he went and killed himself.
he didn't. He didn't feel he'd be a lesser person. He didn't want to suffer.
She quotes him as that.
I
That's
know,
her
but
word.
but
She quotes him.
yeah, but the book makes it clear that he was worried about the intense suffering that he was going
Yeah,
to suffer.
well, you and I read the same book, and I disagree with that. The only thing she quoted him as saying that he has said in print, in her words, of course, because he didn't write it. So everything is from her point of view. Is that he was worried? Go look at your copy of the book and see what's in the front.
Yeah. No,
So I'm going to come back at you, and I'm going to say to everybody listening that you can live a good life with this disease up until the last breath you take. And that you just, anybody can suffer from anything. Suffering is perceived, but it is the person with the disease who experiences it. And I hope everybody listening thinks that I hope my life has gifts into it for other people. And so, but even without that, my purpose and my goal is to be among the longest surviving Alzheimer's patients.
good for you.
And maybe, just maybe, I will be the one that is there and helps with the cure.
Wonderful. I
So,
want to let's make that the last word of this podcast, Sam, because you are very persuasive and I admire you, and I'm looking forward to reading your book when it comes out. And this has been such a joy to discuss this. We have disagreed, and which is perfectly okay. And I hope we've set an example of disagreeing, which we need more and more in our society, disagreeing in a civil, respectful way. I have the highest respect for you. I admire you as a theatrical performer, as a playwright, as a fellow writer, and I just wish you all luck in the world. And I think the things you said, I agree with so much of it, and so I think I wish you luck as you continue this good fight.
and thank you for coming on and being part of this. So we agree on that need to engage in dialogue and discussion on these difficult books, because they are difficult for everybody, and it's important for them to hear this. So thank you again.